EliGE is one of the most decorated NA players in Counter-Strike. His ability to consistently put out stellar performances on a team from a region that always seemed to be 1 or 2 steps behind compared to Europe is what makes him very interesting. Also, off the server, he's extremely vocal, opinionated, and really puts his thoughts into the ways he can constantly improve. This is why I'm happy he joined Talking Counter podcast recently to talk extensively about his improvements, how to focus on 3 most important pillars of the game, and also struggles that you can pick key points from right away and use them in your journey to become better. Firstly, EliGE talks about the topic that impacts all of you. And we discussed it on this channel a while ago. Roles in game. What should be your role? How to play it correctly and what your team needs to improve. Answers are oftentimes rooted deeper than you think, and this is one of such examples. Specifically, we will look into character traits, and I am very happy that EliGE agrees with my theory here.
Putting people in different roles is really hard, as the Straws kind of saw. Whereas if you just have people in roles that they're not comfortable with, it's just not going to work out. I completely think that roles are completely personality based. And I think personalities can be molded and changed a little bit, but I feel players are really suited for particular spots.
After this, Sponge, the host, didn't fully understand, so let's pick his brain a bit more.
I want you to elaborate on that, John.
Which part?
The roles are personality based.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, no,
so
but I want to hear more. I'm interested.
Well, I think that a guy that's naturally more quiet is probably not going to be the best suited for making reads of spots. If you're someone that's more outgoing and what's the word when you're just you take initiative. So if you're that type of guy, then
assertive.
Assertive, yeah. If you're that type of player, then I think you're definitely much more suited for rotator roles.
And I couldn't agree more here. I truly believe that this model is definitely not fit for all type of thing. In general, it matches. We did a deep research and a video on this topic already, which you see on the screen right now, and I highly recommend you to watch it in order to find out and understand what roles are supposedly best for you from psychological factors. It may impact your game or even your career more than you think. The holy trio of traits we look at are initiative, conscientiousness, and extroversion. One role clash might happen with Apeks, and Sponge even brought it up. Let's listen to this clip.
How do you look at Apeks then? Because I think with what you're saying here, there's probably more variance with Apeks.
Yeah, well, I think there's some Apeks that are more passive and some that are more aggressive, obviously, that will fit different teams better.
Okay.
So Shiro, for example, is really passive, and then he's playing on a team with Donk, who's super aggressive.
It's a good mix.
Yeah, and I think it's a good mix for them. And you can probably find similarities with that. Obviously, there's more hybrids. Brokey and Simple and Zaiwu and stuff like that kind of don't really fit into that, but you can find a really good balance of personalities based off of play style.
I think it's also more difficult for Apeks because especially the newer ones and the younger ones, the meta is in a way where you're not gonna find tremendous success being passive as an Apeks. It has to be very special in a way, the way James does it in a sense, or Shiro, right? But again, as you said, that depends on the teammates you have complemented, and the way they structure their game is different.
So the debate around Sniper's personality is very much dependent on the rest of the squad, how they complement each other and how they work together. That is one role where you can spot the differences clearly. For example, 2 captains on AWP are Kaden and James, who both seem to be on completely different spectrum despite sharing the exact same role on the server. Then we have passive, more supportive ones like Shiro or Torzi, and we also have crazy hybrids like Zaiwu or Monte. To underline points we are trying to make with EliGE here, I think we can all agree that in this clip, even though we don't really know the players in question, we kind of know they are very similar just from the vibes they give on camera or during the game.
Axile, Rops, and Bit. I feel I don't know them personally, but when I see them, I feel they have a similar personality, archetype, where they're headshotters, they're really comfortable in their spots. They like to be able to focus on their crosshair.
If you're watching my channel regularly, you know that this topic hits close to home for me. This whole topic started as a question about Dong, so let's start with that. What does he think about probably most talked player of a year?
You can tell that he's just really smart and active with his comms. Yeah, and you could just see how on point he was with his reads, because he's always in the right place at the right time, and it made it so easy for Spirit. Like I don't know if it's exactly their system, but obviously their system must be pretty damn good if they're making it that easy for him to just come in and just own everybody. I've actually, I mean, I've worked with like aim coaches and stuff, and I'm like, yo, can you like analyze him versus me? Like, what's the difference that you'd say? And like the main difference between like him and me is not even just like his aim is much better, because like our aim is actually pretty similar. It's more that he's making things way easier than me. Like his crosshair placement is just perfect, is what it is. Absolutely like perfect crosshair placement. His strafes are just amazing, and he's just always in the right place at the right time. And that's when I've kind of like more focused on like focusing on visualization of like how I want to peak and like exactly how I think the other guy's gonna peak. And I could be wrong, but Donk is just right way more often than like other players.
And then the question from Sponge comes. What's an aim coach? And it's a great question for the guest, because I believe EliGE and me are the only CS2 high-level pros who actually got an aim coach to help us with our abilities to perform better. I think it is an extremely valuable resource to have a coach like that, and that is for pro player. So imagine how beneficial it would be for just aspiring players that may watch this video. I'm preparing a full breakdown of 2 months when I paid a coach to help me identify my weak spots and fix them. You can hit that sub so you won't miss it when I release it. You don't need to pay a coach, but just that video alone has a lot of nuggets of knowledge that you suddenly become aware of your habits, which may or may not be bad, and slow down your improvement. Let's head back and hear EliGE explain his thoughts on this.
They're really, really good. Like you would be impressed if you like saw like how good they can aim compared to like a CS player, like just like the average pro. Like the top one would just stomp them. Like it won't even be close in terms of just raw aim. Because when you're thinking of like aim isolated from, you know, mechanics of strafing and movement and crosshair placement,
and game sense.
Yeah, game sense. Like it's completely different. But if you just see like their raw aim and you can try to like get that from them, then you can be really, really good.
Moses comes up with a follow-up question, probably a lot of you have right now.
What do they provide you? Because like you can go, is it like grip on the mouse, posture, where things are positioned, or like if you're having an aim trainer, compare.
Just what do they do?
Yeah, but like compare you and Donk, right? Like there's no way an aim trainer has the knowledge of Counter-Strike to be able to, you know?
Well, he can like look at the mechanics and see like, okay, like how's he like moving his mouse, like what's like his micros, like what's like his strengths, because like you can tell someone's strengths of like how they're like moving their mouse, because that's all like aim really is. It's like mouse control. But like in terms of like what did they actually do, it's mainly about like looking at like my weaknesses of like, okay, am I like consistently like over flicking or under flicking, and like what's like the best like thing that we can do to like work on that. Like how to work on like tension management, for example. So like you're talking about like the posture stuff. Like, so for example, if you are clearing a site with like maximum tension, so you are death gripped on your mouse and you're just like you're flicking like every single spot. If someone actually peeks you, there's no more tension to give. Like you can't give more tension to your mouse like when someone's peeking you, because you're already at the max while you're clearing angles. So like focusing on like how much tension you have while you're clearing angles, and being able to be like, okay, you're clearly over tensioning here, like in these situations, and you can like work on that specific aspect.
And this is what I also struggled with personally. Tension management is a huge topic and roots a lot of bad habits, especially within Counter-Strike. If you wish to correct it or find ways how to start improving this weakness, again, there are videos on the screen which we already covered on this channel and should give you an idea where to start. Towards the end, the interview becomes a bit more aimed towards self-improvement. One great question comes up, and that is, what tips would EliGE give to young players who wish to become professionals? Let's say you are level 10 on Face It, or just generally enjoy the game and want to elevate their skill.
I want to go pro, I want to take it to the next level. Like, what would be your advice in how to improve like individually? What are the things to focus on to get better? What's the best way to do that?
Well, I'd say from like a theoretical standpoint, I would say crosshair placement is the most important thing, like bar none. Like crosshair placement and movement, I think, is going to set you apart more than anything else. Because I've seen people with like the best aim possible, and like if you don't have like crosshair placement and movement, then you're just not going to be as good. And you can look at Donk for an example of like someone that honestly might have like the best crosshair placement and movement in the game, like for sure. But I would just try to always be like questioning. Well, if you're level 10, I mean, you still have a long way to go in terms of like game sense and everything like that. So you should always be like watching POVs, working on crosshair placement and movement. So you can use that with like refrag, or just being on the server and just like practicing your strafes and visualizing where you think the other guy is. Because if you're not having that thought process of like where is this guy gonna be, how is he gonna peek me, like how far should I be strafing, should I do a long strafe, should I do a short strafe, should I get close to the angle, like you need to be breaking down the game to that level.
So as he said, this is more theoretical. Obviously mechanics are core of Counter-Strike, that is what sets apart best from the rest. But then we move to discussion about how to balance this theoretical practice by, let's say, watching POVs or watching live matches with actual gameplay.
You have to break down every little thing possible. But if you just got level 10, I would just focus on like the main pillars of just crosshair placement, movement. Of course, aim is always important, but game sense, crosshair placement, movement, I think is the most important things. Well, I think the ratio should always be like higher in terms of playing, because you can only get so far by watching. You always need to be like doing as much as you can. But I think that if you're watching like a POV a day, like if I swear like people that are watching like 3 to 4 POVs or demos a day, there's just no way you're getting that much out of it. Because I can watch a POV and I can get so much out of it. Like it can take me, like if that's like a 30-minute YouTube video, I could probably take like an hour and 15 minutes.
With that being said, I cannot stress enough how important is it to be intentional with the way you practice. I hope this recap of an interview gives you a better idea how to do it yourself. And if you like this, definitely check the YouTube channel of EliGE, where he covers a lot of various in-game topics with great attention to detail. And if you feel like this helped you, definitely hitting that like or subscribe are the best ways to help me create even more content like this. So you should be also seeing some good videos on the screen right now that YouTube thinks is good for you. So get into that. I'll see you there. Bye bye.